welcome to the Lady Jaye Meat Dudes podcast. How are we doing? I'm Evan.
Tyler.
Charlie.
Oh, man, look at that enthusiasm. Feeling it. Loving it. Well, today we're talking some Wagyu beef. Wagyu 101. And I'm going to say Wagyu a whole bunch because I say it wrong. Wagyu beef. And, you know, this kind of topic right here of Wagyu beef is really kind of, I think, inspired the podcast just because there's not a lot of information out there. Good information that it's really hard to find. You know, there's some podcast episodes. I know I was searching for some like a while ago and I couldn't find really anything. And then, you know, there's a couple of books out there, and then there's some YouTube videos of dudes that are like, this is the most expensive beef you'll ever have, and they're cooking it up. It's $500. So we wanted to kind of, you know, make it a little bit more accessible, hopefully get the right information out there, because right now it's kind of, it seems scary almost to the average person, like I could never afford that. That's crazy. So we have some nice A5 Wagyu beef here. Where's it from?
It was scary for us the first time.
Oh, I mean,
right.
Dude, it was nuts.
Charlie's saying, you want to cut the most expensive beef you ever cut in your life? I don't know, man. I'm a little freaked out.
Well, so let's jump into what are some like common misconceptions that the average person hears when you hear Wagyu beef. What do you think, right? Like $100 to $200 a pound, could never afford it.
Right, only comes from Japan.
Only comes from Japan, fine dining, A5.
Yep.
Kobe beef.
Yes.
Right, Kobe beef, that's a big one, right? I don't want to cook it. I don't want to fuck it up.
I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, we get that.
Yeah.
We get that a lot, right? So I think, you know, we're here to hopefully talk about these misconceptions, bust some Wagyu beef myths, and continue the conversation of
Wagyu beef.
Oh, you did it.
Let's go,
Nice.
baby.
Okay.
That was
All
the
right.
intro music right there. So I guess before we get into like some history and stuff, let's just kind of wet your beak a little bit about why Wagyu beef is so great. And I love this. I love, you know, kind of explaining this, why it's so incredible. It's because it really hits all of your senses, right? It looks amazing. If you guys could see through the podcast, here you can see us on YouTube. Look, it just looks incredible, right? It sounds amazing when it's sizzling, when it's cooking. It smells amazing. It tastes incredible. And it's got just an outstanding mouthfeel. So it really kind of hits all your senses, right? But
As far as beef goes, it's luscious beef butter.
luscious beef butter, right? So what is it, right?
Tastes amazing.
Let's get into what is Wagyu beef, right? Let's break it down a little bit. So if you looked it up, you would definitely see that it, you know, Wa is Japanese and Gyu is cow or cattle. So it really just means Japanese cattle. That's, in the purest form, it's cow from Japan, right? But it's really like a super marbled, genetically superior cattle from Japan, basically, to kind of break it down, I guess.
Totally.
Would you agree?
Yeah.
I mean, as far as eating goes.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have farm animals, right?
Yeah,
So.
right? Well, it's funny you say it because originally they were actually, you know, farm animals. According to the, you know, American Wagyu Association, where I'm pulling some of this information, right? They were used in agriculture, and they're selected for their physical endurance because they have so much of that intermuscular fat, right? That marbling, and that's what, like, makes it so luscious and so tender and so amazing, right? So they had that, you know, they provided a really nice, quick, you know, available energy source,
Right.
while they were farming. And it's funny because I was reading this other book called America's Wagyu Trail, and this guy compares it to saying, like using these cows in agriculture is kind of like the French using foie gras to grease their wagon wheels. Like, kind of the same, right? But I mean, they do have energy sources, right?
I mean, they did it out
First time I've
of
heard
necessity,
that.
right?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Greasing the wagon wheels with foie gras.
But
They used what they had.
It's, yeah, right? Exactly. It's what they had. So one key aspect of the genetics that's present in, you know, it's this particular gene called the SCD gene. I'm not even going to try to freaking say it because it's like,
get biological.
yeah, we're going to keep it nice and light. But it basically is present in higher levels in Wagyu cattle than in other breeds. So basically, this results in a higher proportion of unsaturated fatty acids, which contributes to the distinctive taste and flavor, right? So that's one of the things. In addition to the SCD gene, a couple other genes, or there's one gene that it's known. It's called the myostatin gene, which is involved in regulating muscle growth. So variations in this gene have been linked to differences in muscle mass and marbling in Wagyu cattle. So it's got a couple of different genes. So like we're saying, it's genetically a little bit different than other cattle, right?
Yep.
Sure, and I think one of the myths is that people come in and say, "Oh, I can't eat beef every day," and I always say, "Well, you can if you eat the good kind, because it's actually good health for you, right?"
Yeah, we'll get into that too. We're going to get
Sure.
into those healthy fats,
Yeah.
right? And you know, some common misconceptions with those too. So if you look up again, so you know, if you look up on Google, what is Wagyu beef, you're going to see that there's 4 types of Wagyu cattle, right? Really kind of doesn't matter to the end consumer, but in case it's like a Jeopardy question or something, you know, we'll go over the 4 types of cattle. So the Japanese black, which is 90% of what you're going to probably see here, definitely in the U.S. And that's probably the most common one that you're going to see.
Yeah, definitely.
And then there's the Japanese brown, the Japanese polled, and the Japanese shorthorn. So those are the 4 types of cattle that can be traced back to you know, the genetically being Wagyu, right?
Right.
Okay. And it's funny. I love there's like all these little descriptions, like the Japanese black is, you know, really gives a really rich, buttery texture and flavor, and the other one is a beefy flavor and high levels of umami. Like, it's all like the same shit, man. It's just
all
really
delicious. It's all delicious.
Exactly. But like, so think about how Japan's kind of, you know, laid out. It's not full of pastures like the U.S. and Australia, and probably not the best for raising cattle, right? It's very rocky, and I feel like the Japanese almost had to choose quality over quantity when raising cattle, right? But they also kind of got lucky because these came over from, I believe, Korea, Asia, you know, into Japan, probably, I don't know, 1,000 years ago, whenever that shit happens. Who knows? But basically, they need to be raised stress-free. They need to be slaughtered they're usually slaughtered at like a later date to really build up that intermuscular fat.
Yeah.
And think about the culture. We'll talk a little bit about the culture here too, right? Like, Japanese culture is very patient farmers. They wait a lot longer to build that up and get that crazy fat. But also, Japan was super secretive, right, about Wagyu for
In their diet, in
a
their
long
feed,
time.
and-
Oh, it's still in their feed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, we were talking about it, we can't find anything really about their feed. You know, we were looking that stuff up, like, what the heck, man? Like, and Charlie, you were saying some people who've actually fed them don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, some of the farms we've been to, there's a handler who kind of knows the recipe, right? And then there's the people that actually feed them, and they don't share that information with they didn't tell us. They didn't know.
Wow, dude.
Secret recipe.
A secret recipe, bro. I mean, yeah, I guess it's kind of your
That's your
thing, right?
moneymaker.
That's your
Yeah.
moneymaker, right?
Yeah.
So, how did it become popular around the world, right? How did it get to the U.S.? So let's dive into that.
Tell me.
Well, you know, I got a couple
I
of
know
facts
you
here,
did.
bro.
I know you did.
So there's a lot of stories about GIs in the Korean War that were taking R&R in Japan, and then walking around the markets going probably like, what the hell is this, dude? Like, this is crazy, right? Probably beef hanging down, going, I've never seen anything like that. I mean, looking at this piece of A5 right in front of us, it's wild, man. If you've never seen something
If
like
you've never
that.
seen anything like that, it's like the first time you see really fatty tuna belly or something. You're like, whoa.
It's
It blows your mind.
It does, dude.
That before you even get to taste it, it blows your mind just by looking at it, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So then, you know, so up until then, really, that's crazy that, like, not many people outside Japan had really probably seen this, you know. And then in the 70s, they brought in 4 cows to the United States, right? Texas, wasn't it? I don't know. I may be wrong there.
We don't know how they got here.
We don't know, right? They're technically, I don't know. They say they might be smuggled in, or we don't know, you know, how it became. It's very gray.
Unsolved mystery.
You know, we talked to a couple people. Got the benefit of talking to Dr. Jerry Reeves at a Bar R, Wagyu in Pullman, and his daughter Arlie. And he is basically one of the, like, if there was like a godfather for American Wagyu, he might be it. He probably wouldn't consider himself that because he's super humble. But if there's like a Mount Rushmore of Wagyu in America, he would be on there.
He'd be on there.
He'd be on there. He'd be like,
Okay.
I don't know if he'd be George Washington. Like, I can't commit that yet, but maybe he'd at least be Jefferson, right? He's the third, right? Right? It was Jefferson.
Yes.
like,
Yes,
Washington,
you're right.
Adams, Jefferson, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I bet Charlie has could probably name the rest of the presidents. He's like a fucking
Trivial
song.
Pursuit guy over here.
He's like, first George Washington, and then John Adams.
Fuck up.
Bro, he got it. He could rock that shit out. You know it. But so talking to these guys, it was awesome, man. We got to set up an interview with these guys, and his daughter Arlie was like, "Yeah, we can talk first thing in the morning." And I was like, "Shit, dude, like, you guys are farmers. Like, what is first thing in the morning to you guys, bro?"
4 a.m. Yeah.
No, but they were gracious enough to talk about 7:30 a.m. But really, so he was on like a super original research team that in the 80s, like late 80s, from Washington State University, basically sent over to Japan to kind of see what type of cattle what kind of beef they liked, because Japan was planning on lifting its imports and tariffs and quotas on meat, and they could only produce 1/3 of beef for the whole country. So he was telling me that the U.S. and Australia was supposed to take the other third. So a third Japan, a third U.S., a third Australian. So they were sent over there, and he said this guy's like a farmer, animal scientist, like knows a lot about animals, bro. And he was like, "What? I've never seen anything like this. Like, and this is the 80s, right? Like, that's crazy that like hardly anybody outside of Japan really knew about this stuff until like really the 70s, 80s. So he goes over there, and he was just like I said, totally just blown away. It was like, okay, we got to figure this out, because I guess he was saying that they were going to compete. Washington was going to try to compete with the Midwest to try to get this contract or whatever to produce beef, right, for Japan. And so that, and then in the early 90s they actually brought some over like street legally or totally legally, right? The first one was street legally, I guess. And so they flew out and landed Moses Lake. So first real, Wagyu cattle were in Washington. That's crazy, dude.
Right down the street from us.
Pretty much.
180 miles.
Right where Pure Country Farms is, huh? Shout out. But these guys, it's crazy because he's been in Wagyu beef for 40 years, 35, 40 years, right? So, and they've collected all this data, super, just they're in the genetics business, basically.
DNA.
Yeah, farming and genetics. So he's like the Moneyball of Wagyu beef, right? He's got all of this information on tens of thousands of cattle, of Wagyu cattle, and they can predict all this stuff, right? Like back fat and eating and how marbled these calves are going to be just through the DNA. So what they're doing over there, man, is
crazy.
Dude, yeah, I told you, he's on Mount Rushmore, man. Dude, but imagine if the Seahawks GM John Snyder had that info, that guy in the draft is going to be a stud. I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy, dude. They know this stuff, man. So it's awesome, man. And they're, so like I said, they're really in the genetics and farming, and we have some bar our Wagyu that we're gonna have out this week too, right?
Oh, yeah.
You guys are cutting up what?
Today.
Yeah.
New York Strip.
New York Strip.
Yeah.
Ooh. And they do full blood over there.
Yeah.
And we'll get into all that. I guess I'm jumping the gun. But yeah, it's a super awesome family-run farm. His wife Heidi runs the whole operation with him too, and she actually traveled to Japan with Dr. Jerry Reeves a couple of times, and is an animal scientist as well. So it was awesome to be able to talk to them. They're going to be great resources for us, right?
Sure.
Moving forward. I'm hitting up his daughter, hey, can you answer this question for me? And she's boom, just sending me just piles of information and videos, and I'm like, dude.
Amazing.
It's cool because you can't see, I've been looking for Wagyu information for a while, but I feel now we got a little bit of a connect on the inside, right?
Right.
She was sending me stuff from the Colorado State University, and this nice video that they did. And I was like, okay, cool, man. This is what we need to know. This is what the public wants to know. This is the stuff that they are trying to push out to the general public to make it,
right?
Yeah, make it less threatening, right? So, what is the difference between American Wagyu, Japanese Wagyu, and Australian Wagyu? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the crossbreeds and the difference in culture, right? Because it's not all just A5 super marbled from Japan, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what is it? So, in America, what do you typically find, Charlie?
F1 Wagyu,
F1 Wagyu.
which is 50% Angus beef, 50% probably Japanese black beef.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So 50-50 cross, mostly Angus.
Yeah.
And
That's
Wagyu.
F1, and as the number goes up, F2, F3, F4, the blood lineage is more traceable right back to Japan. Is that how that works?
Till it gets to pure blood,
Pure blood.
Mhm.
then full blood,
Yeah.
then A5.
Right. So F1 is your 50-50. F2 is 75-25, Wagyu to Angus or whatever. F3 is pure blood at 93%. And then full blood is 100% traceable genetics back to Japan. No crossbreeding at all.
Right.
Yeah. Man.
Which we're lucky enough to get here. Other farms, other farms around us do have full blood Wagyu.
Yeah.
We get it a lot.
And it looks awesome.
Yeah, it's delicious.
Amazing.
It's awesome. But, the consumer, though, in the United States, like we were saying, Dr. Jerry Reeves was telling me, like, in Japan, they eat 2-3 ounces of A5 super marbled Wagyu beef.
Yeah, and also, are they eating A5 all the time? Are they eating
maybe not,
A3, A4? Like, some of that stuff doesn't even make it to the United States, right? Because they just consume it over there.
True that. Yeah.
So,
but more marbled, smaller.
oh,
amounts,
way smaller amounts.
Super small amounts.
2 ounces instead of a 16-ounce ribeye, right?
Yeah.
And that's just our culture versus their culture, correct?
Absolutely,
I mean,
right?
I don't want to talk trash about being an American, but we're kind of glutton, right?
Yeah, I want to eat a steak,
I
bro.
want a steak, man.
I want a full-on steak, man.
You
I
know,
want like
like
12, 16 ounces.
I think I explained.
Which, if you're going to eat that much A5, that's kind of gross.
You can't eat that much, right? Like you would be in pain.
Should we try?
Yeah, bro. I bet Nick and
I
Nick
mean,
back
this is
behind the
eight-
bar
this-
could.
This is 8 ounces, and I feel like I could knock that.
Oh man, I
Ooh.
don't know, bro.
8 ounces of A5?
No, bro. You gotta get halfway through that and be like, yeah, man. Yeah, it's about time. About time. Call it quits. Okay, guys. So why does an American full-blood Wagyu look like A5 Japanese Wagyu, or does it? What do you think?
Does not.
I mean, in my experience,
Mhm.
it seems like, I'm just guessing, but to me it seems like the muscle structure is twice as large. Certain cuts, right? Like the New York is twice as big as some of the full blood we get over here.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the only thing I can think of is age and diet.
Yeah, right. And they say
Age and diet.
Well, Jerry Reeves was telling us that like they wait longer, right, to harvest their cattle.
Yeah, I mean, some of the Pacific Rogues we've got have been huge animals.
Yeah.
Huge. Those are typically F1s.
Yeah, right.
So
'Cause the
the
Wagyu
full
breed
bloods
is
are
kinda
usually
small.
small.
Yeah.
Full bloods are usually smaller.
When we get that full rib primal, when we get the Pacific Rogues, those things were gigantic.
Yeah, I think those are from F1s.
F1.
Because the biggest one we ever got was like a hanging weight of like 1,300 pounds or something like that.
Okay.
It was huge.
So yeah. So we're like
That was
we
big.
gotta figure out that question. I'll probably get hit up.
Yeah.
Carly will probably hit me up and be like, "Yo, dude,
Cool.
this is it."
Realistically, I mean, what is the difference in terroir,
Mm-hmm.
where it's raised, what it's eating, temperature? I mean, all that shit is different does
Right.
different things to the body, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go. Okay, let's bust some myths. Let's bust some myths here. So the first one, Wagyu myth that always comes up is Wagyu beef is the same as Kobe, right? It's Kobe beef. And
Wrong.
wrong. Well, technically it is. I mean, Kobe is Wagyu beef.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
But what about it?
All right. So, how to explain it? If you think of sparkling wine can come from California, sparkling wine can come from Australia.
In the style of champagne.
Right. Champagne comes from Champagne, France.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
So Kobe has to come from the Hyogo Prefecture. Yeah, I know. I wrote it down phonetically, bro. I probably still said it wrong, but it's where Kobe is the capital, and so it has to come from that region.
One specific region, yeah.
Yeah, and the feed there, they claim the feed there is higher quality, better. The rice there is like superior. We don't know though.
I mean, it's documented, it's stamped, the carcasses are stamped. It's kind of like Parmesan cheese, right?
yeah.
Like you can get Parmesan cheese from Wisconsin, but it's not Parmesan cheese from Parma.
It's not the
Yeah.
Parma Ranch.
That's right.
Definitely not.
Exactly. And Dr. Jerry Reeves was telling us, like, he's like, when we came back from Japan, we were calling it Kobe because that's what, like, the American consumer kind of knew, So it's been
That was
intermingled
the
in there.
catchphrase.
Yeah, people kind of understood what that was.
It's probably way more marketable.
It's
like
way
that.
more marketable,
For
right?
sure.
And that's why it pisses me off now when you see, like, a place going, oh, we got Kobe beef burgers. Like, do you? Did you fly Kobe beef from Japan in here to start a $13 burger?
To grind it up and make it.
Bro.
Definitely not.
It'd be like $150 burger.
Yes.
right? Like that would be even if you're using
Even if you're
top
just using
round
the
and-
fat.
you know, like,
Even if
for
you were
real.
just serving Kobe beef fat,
Yeah.
it would still be
so crazy.
it would still be $50.
Yeah.
I
So
want some.
all Kobe is Wagyu, but not all Wagyu is Kobe. Boom. Okay.
There you go.
Exactly.
Boom. Myth number 2: all Wagyu beef is grade A.
No.
No, right? We kind of talked about that. We can talk about the scale. So, A, there's you hear A in 5, right? So A means the A, B, or C has to deal with the yield. So A means that it's 70% yield from
the whole
cattle.
carcass.
Yeah, exactly. Which means nothing to the consumer at the end of the day. They don't care,
Don't care.
right? The 5 is where the beef marbling standard comes in, right? There's 1 through 12. So the 5 means that it's rated on the beef marbling standard from 8 to 12. It means it's the highest, right? So only 5 is from 8, BMS 8 to BMS 12.
Yep.
Awesome. And BMS 12 is about 55% fat. Wow, what is that? That looks about right.
Meat butter.
Yeah, it's like meat
That's it.
butter.
That's it.
And that's why you can only eat a few ounces.
No, I'm gonna eat 8.
I'm gonna eat all 8. So, USDA Prime, just for like reference, USDA Prime, if it was graded on the beef marbling standard, which it is, it would be a 4 or 5. Prime would
Right. But
rank
how
in that
much
4 or
beef in
5.
America is even prime?
3%.
3% of all the cattle that people consume
Yep.
in America.
In America is prime.
Right.
In
So it's already special.
exactly.
And then you're above that scale.
And they say that 100% of full blood Wagyu has 2 to 5 times more marbling than prime. So that's what if you want that marbling, if you want that buttery flavor, that's why you're going
That's
there.
why you're
right?
paying more money.
That's why you're paying a little bit more money. But that jumps us into myth number 3, Charlie.
Perfect setup.
You're
Segue.
just fucking leading me, bro.
Go.
You're great. Wagyu beef is always expensive. Way too expensive. I can't afford it. I would never do it. Only for celebrations.
I mean, we talk about beef, period. It's the usual suspects, right? It's the ribeye, it's the tenderloins, and New York strip.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the top 3.
Hollywood.
That's the Hollywood cuts.
Hollywood
baby.
cuts.
So you're gonna get a Hollywood cut of Wagyu beef? Well, fuck yeah, it's gonna be expensive. Just like it, it's the best of the best of the best, right?
Yeah.
What about the rest of that animal?
Mhm.
What about the zabs? What about Terrace Major?
But
What about
yeah, so like $19 Wagyu zabs in the case right now
so
that just like blow your
if we
mind.
buy a half a carcass, of course we're gonna have to charge X amount for those Hollywood cuts, but then that gives us the luxury of being able to give our customers
Mhm.
something they've never had before
Mm-hmm.
for not as expensive.
Yeah.
It's dope.
And there's, like you said, there's different types of cuts. There's the different types of Wagyu beef, right?
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
getting A5 New York, it's going to be expensive. If you're getting a 50/50 F1 Zabuton, it might not be as expensive. Still going to be great.
It's gonna be delicious.
It's going to be delicious. All right. This is my favorite myth, too. That Wagyu cattle are massaged, drink beer, and listen to classical music. Right.
That's how I was raised.
Don't think so,
Don't
but
think
I
so.
could be wrong.
Bro. I mean, imagine like you just have like 1,000
hot
cows,
tub.
like
I
massaging
mean,
1,000
maybe
cows.
they're just probably really well taken care of.
That's the thing, right?
Right.
They're super well taken care of. They have their own space. It's not like, huge, feeding grounds in the United States where we're just like funneling cow through the. It doesn't look like that. They have space. They don't want to stress these cows out to build up the cortisol, right?
And when we order those, when we bring them in, we get that certificate, right? So
For
it tells
sure.
the farm, tells the farmer, the breed, harvest date, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you start to look into that a little bit, and those farmers don't have 500 head of cattle, right? They sometimes have 2, and that's their livelihood.
Look at Magnolia Farms, right? They harvest once every year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, I don't even know. They have
Yeah.
20 to 30.
Even Pacific
Yeah.
Rogue.
Yeah, exactly. So the whole beer thing, I think, comes from when on hot days, like there was a farmer that fed their cows some beer to get their appetite going a little bit, stimulate the appetite. But other than that,
It's
man,
marketing.
dude, they just want to be low
know.
stress and just really well fed. They live longer. They have their own space. They're not being crammed into things, man. It's a nice
Yeah.
life, bro.
I drank beer and
Yeah.
got a massage this morning, bro. That's why I'm so chill.
That's right.
So chill.
Bro, we're gonna start charging for you, man. Well, this is your favorite part too, the healthy fats, right?
I love the healthy fat.
So basically, Wagyu fat is It's a low cholesterol fat. It's extremely rich in monounsaturated fatty acids, so omega-3s, omega-6s, right? It's got more than salmon. It's got more than olive oil.
Lower in cholesterol than chicken.
Yeah. So it is a healthy fat. But as Dr. Jerry Reeves was telling me,
Please
he was like, yo, but be careful, man, because I was like, yo, I was like, Jerry Bear, right? That's what I call him now.
What?
I was like, hey, man,
Dr. Jerry.
Stop. How healthy are these fats? Like, tell the people how healthy these fats are. Because I wanted to be like, man, like, give it to me. And he was like, well, be careful, dude, because they are healthy, but you're also you're consuming 3 times more. So you're consuming more fat. So like everything in moderation, right? So you don't have it wouldn't go claiming that hey, it'd be super healthy to eat that A5 that's sitting right out there in front of us, right?
Lunch and dinner.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. But yeah, on the grand scheme of things, it is a healthier fat. So using it in moderation, using it to grease your pan and things like that is very good.
Sure, roast your veggies.
Exactly.
Taters.
But eating 8 to 10 ounces of A5 marbled beef.
So you tell me not to do that.
I mean, I kind of want to see you do it. Be for real, man. All right. Well,
Today's the day.
today is the day. So, what does it taste like? What does it taste like?
You can't. I mean,
It's so hard.
can
to
you really explain the first time you taste it?
What was the first time that you tasted it?
At a former restaurant, I tasted it
Yeah.
for the first time, like a small wedge off, like a doorstop miscut.
Yeah.
So good. But then we brought it in here just for, just to see if we could sell it. And
Yeah.
you tried it.
I tried it here.
And
for
you
the
were
first
like,
time.
buy more.
I was like, what the fuck is this, dude? I
But
mean, it's an experience, right?
It is an experience, and it's funny that. I mean, those of us, the 3 of us, that kind of started trying to figure this out and learn about it. We're like, A5, that's it. We got to get A5. We got to try it, right?
Yeah.
And it's delicious. It's
Mhm.
crazy, knock your socks off, delicious. And then we're like, can't eat very much of this. What the hell's going on here? And as we kind of, my misconception in the beginning was when people said American Wagyu, I was just like, oh, fuck that. I'm not eating that
There's
shit.
people who come into the meat shop and say that there's no American Wagyu. I'm like, yeah, bro.
And
Yeah,
then
there
you
is.
get introduced to the F1 Cross and the 50/50, and you're like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Completely different animal, and you get that crazy meaty yumminess and the fatty, luscious Wagyu fat flavor. And
Yeah.
It's meat butter. I mean, I don't know how to better explain it. It's just,
Exactly, man.
Yeah.
It's good. It's like tender. I mean, it's got a lower melting point too, right? Wagyu fat has a lower melting
the
point.
Wagyu
so.
fat starts to melt at 70 degrees.
I
or
think so, something
you
like
can
that.
grab
Yeah,
it
I was gonna
just-
say it's right in front of the fire pit here out on our
But it is
patio.
35 degrees out today.
So yeah, that plate's still nice and chill. We're good. It's not melting yet. And we brought it in here. What was it, like 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah.
When we did our
Couple years, yeah. First
Yeah.
meat market.
first meat market. So our meat purveyors from Preservation, CN was like, yo, you want this half a cattle? We basically brought in half of a Wagyu beef. We barely knew anything about it. We opened up our garage door windows and probably sold it in like 2 hours, like almost the entire thing. Like we had
That
a line.
was an interesting morning.
That was. Oh yeah. Some people did not like that we were
Ruffled
doing
some
that.
feathers.
hey.
Just trying to make it over here.
Trying to
make it.
Just
Give
trying
the
to
people what they want.
show the people something new. So what's like our favorite cuts and our favorite farms? Let's give some shout outs to some people that have helped us.
Masami flank.
Pacific Rogue from Gold Beach, Oregon, New York.
New York strip.
New York.
Zabs. Anytime we get
love-
a zab out
I
of
love a
any of the
full-blood.
animals are just unbelievable, right?
Full blood
That
flank is
flavors.
pretty dope though, right?
What about skirt?
Ooh, my gosh, I haven't had a
Wagyu skirt or
in a while.
Wagyu bavette?
Oh, I love the bavette.
You love the
I love the
bavette.
Wagyu bavette. That's probably my favorite cut ever. Is just because it's like so it's so beefy, like it's so big in the middle, and it's just like that
I
medium
gotta
rare
say,
cut.
man, the
Man,
Wagyu skirts.
I love skirts,
Yeah,
man.
mhm.
Yo, and we got some bar our New York that we're gonna cut up here today,
Yeah.
and we're excited about that. We got the
We're
bar
gonna put
our
it
ground
next
beef
to
in
the
there
Say
too.
5, see the difference in the 2 of them compared
Yeah,
next to each other.
full blood A5.
Yep.
What's your preference?
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, dude.
And then we're gonna eat 10 ounces of A5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, we got a tri-tip too, right? You're gonna cut up a tri-tip.
Oh, yeah, we got that tri-tip.
We got the tri-tip from Pacific Rogue.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. We bring a lot of stuff in from Masami, Pacific Rogue, Bar R, Magnolia Farms.
Masami flank steaks.
Those are pretty good, man. Those sell so
Dude,
fast.
solid.
Yeah, those are nice, man. So, why should Wagyu not be scary? Why shouldn't it be scary? Let's kind of close it out here. Talk about why the American consumer shouldn't be scared to try it or cook it or anything like that.
I think it's easier to cook than normal beef.
Right?
Honestly,
It is.
it's more forgiving because there's more fat, so you can even overcook it. Honestly, you don't want to eat it rare,
Yeah.
so you have a big window.
I like my ribeyes medium, right?
Mhm.
Because I want that intermuscular fatty to break down, so I
Nice
can eat that.
rendered.
Because I want that to render down a little bit.
For sure.
I don't really dig on a rare, mid-rare ribeye, but
Yeah.
mid-rare New York all day.
All
A
day.
rare tenderloin.
All
day, son. But yeah, I think what Charlie said, it's more forgiving.
Yep.
And I don't know what the common misconception is of why it's so scary, but that's why we're here to educate our clientele. And be like,
Yeah.
try this, just do it.
Right?
Cook it like, how do you cook a steak at home? Well, do it the same way.
Yeah. It's like trying a nice bottle of wine, right? Like, you
Open it,
Open
decant
it.
taste it, right?
Ooh,
Exactly.
decant it. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
Not sure what that misconception is, but that's why we're here.
I mean, it's
We're
just
here to
expensive,
help
right?
everybody.
Yeah.
It just seems scary when you're looking at it. Like when I look at that piece of A5, if I'm not around beef like us all the time, you'd be like, what the
What is that?
fuck, man? Like that's crazy. Like how does that even work, right? It looks overwhelming, but it's not. Like you can cook that up. We're gonna cook that up later today, and
I was overwhelmed cutting it for the first time, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah, but when we cook that up, man, it's just an easy sear in cast iron,
Done.
and then a little finishing salt, a little salt bay at the end,
You
and
got it.
throw. It's
I don't
game
salt
over.
bay. You
No,
salt
no, dude.
That's-
You
I don't salt bay.
You are the
No
salt
flare
bay,
salt.
bro. I'll flare it up, man. Well, and the best part, about all of Wagyu, what we love and what we try to, with our quality of meat mission is everything's traceable, right? Everything's traceable back to Japan. All American Wagyu has to be traced back to the American Wagyu Association. So you're getting a good product when you see that stamp. It's all traced and
Definite.
freaking amazing. Yeah. So should we sign off? You guys got any last finishing thoughts here?
Come buy some Wagyu. I dare you. Try it at home.
Try it at home.
Feed your
Yeah, I
kids.
guess just don't be scared of it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not scary to chomp into that Wagyu beef burger on Thursday nights that we make up here.
Realistically, once you do try it and you take it home and you cook it,
Yeah.
Sorry,
It's
you're
pretty
done,
good, dude.
You're done.
Dude, I was listening to this podcast real quick. I was listening to this podcast about Wagyu beef, and this one chef was saying you don't need to grind up Wagyu beef. It's fine. There's other beef that you can use for burgers. You don't need to grind up Wagyu beef. And so then they did like a test. The show host brought it around to like 12 people, and everyone's like, I like that one. It was all Wagyu. And I just
course.
felt bad for the dude. I was like, sorry, bro.
Whoops.
It's pretty good, man. So, well, let's sign it off. I'm Evan.
Tyler.
Charlie.
We are the LJ Meat Dudes. We will see you next time.